Welcome everyone, hope you're on a very wonderful day. Welcome to my Plains Bison guide for the Yukon. Before we begin, I want to quickly break down how today's guide is going to work. So our first section will be covering their hotspots and locations, and then we're going to move on to weapon recommendations, and then end today's guide with the animal profile, which will be a custom map, time zones, ammo chart, and more. Everything you need to make your hunting life 10 times easier. So, let's get right into it with their drinking time. These guys drink between 8 to 12, and currently we are walking up to one of the best hotspots in the game. In my honest opinion, I don't know if it's a guaranteed hotspot, but I will be showcasing it today. So stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to quickly open up our map while we're walking there. We're going to actually crouch and speed walk so I can just quickly explain where these guys like to reside. So we're going to start at the northern section of the map, and we're going to work our way from right to left. And then after we get done with that, we're going to come back over here on this right side and explain all their locations. So we're going to zoom in here. Now, I've looked at a bunch of guides, and they do mark up here in this little swampy northern section, but I don't think that's very accurate. If someone does get zones up there, please let me know, because I think the cutoff point is right here in this little inlet where I do have one Plains Bison group. And the reason why I think that is because coming over here to the Bright Water Flats, we have about 3 bison zones here, all under the roadway here. I did not find a single watering zone in the northern section of the flats. So that's why I assume they're only below this road and cut off right here at this inlet. Moving on to the left-hand side, we do have this big lake here, which houses quite a few zones. Now, I did not find any zones for some reason on the back. Maybe they haven't got to the zones yet, but I could not find any. But I do think this lake is also pretty good, with the most northern section of the bison being right here at this little tippy point, which is as far as they can go. Moving back over here to the right-hand side, they can reside at these 2 lakes, which I did not get any zones, but I did mark them down. Moving down over here, I did mark this as a hotspot. The reason being is that we have about 2 outposts here, which can quickly get to any of these lakes. Now, I did not, unfortunately, get a bison here, but I have been checking to make sure that, one of them didn't slip by, but so far nothing. But moving back over to these 3 lakes, we do have at least 1 zone per each of them, and with this one having 2. Going on down to the bottom here, now I did not get any bison in these stretches. However, the only little area that I did get bison was in the very far end of the river here. So we do have 1 zone here. We should have maybe 2, possibly, within this area. Nope, we do not. But they can reside at this one lake here at the 4 set down here at the bottom at this lake only. So I did get only 1 zone there. Moving on to the far left side, let me just make sure we're not walking anything too crazy. We're going to open our map again. This big old Copper Bowl Lake is pretty good for bison. I have about 9 zones here. Some of them setting up in 3s, which are right here. Here's the 1 set, and then we have another set down here. I do recommend tetting this lake up with at least 2 to 3 tents, just due to how massive it is. So it's kind of tedious grinding, I guess, on this lake unless you have those tents. Moving up to the lake that we're going to be visiting, this one has about 7 bison zones. So I did mark it as a hotspot. I hope it's a hotspot for you guys, but I thought it was pretty crazy due to how big this lake is. There's so many zones. But also another reason I included this lake in right next to it as a hotspot, because you could possibly just place a tent right between them and just go between both of the lakes. We have about, I believe, 2 or 3 zones for this one. We should have 2 at least. Yes, we do. And I did mark the lake up here in the northern section of these 2, as well as a hotspot, because I have 2 is there as well, and it's right next to the outposts. Moving on to this lake, I did only have like 1 zone of bison. Actually, I have 2 zones of bison of this lake, but that's all I got at that one, so I did mark that as a common hotspot. I should have marked this one as a hotspot, but it's labeled as common. So that's pretty much it for all their hotspots and locations. We're going to quickly come down here to this lake, just so I could showcase some of the bison residing at this hotspot that I like. We should be able to see some, hopefully soon. This lake is massive, and standing from this side, you will not be able to render in any of the bison due to the rendering distance, unfortunately. So you're going to have to actually walk the whole lake if you want to get all your bison, or be able to see them. So this should be the first group. We do have some red fox near us, but we're not interested in that. We're interested in these bison. So this should be the first group that's intermingling, maybe possibly with another group. Nope, they are not. It's just that group is further down and out of the render distance, which we're actually starting to see them right now, which there's quite a few of them. Oh, finally, a nice level 4. But look at all these bison. There's so many bison. And unfortunately, I wish we could see the other ones. This corner back there is just packed with them. There's so many of them. due to 4 of them just being on each, well, 2 on each side of this embankment. It's kind of crazy. That's pretty much it for the hotspots and locations. I'm going to head back to the outposts so we can go over some weapons. So I'll see you guys in just a moment. Alrighty folks, so here we are back at the outpost. Before we begin, I want to mention quickly 3 things. First things first is, I'm only going to be covering rifles, handguns, and shotguns. I'll not be covering bows because I'm not a bow expert, so I'll leave that to professionals. Secondly, these are just my personal recommendations and favorites. I always say go out there and explore and see what suits you and what you enjoy playing with. And then lastly, I'll be mentioning whatever deals these weapons come from in case you want to pick them up for yourself. So, let's get right into it with our first rifle today. Now, this is my personal recommendation if you're trying to kill as many plains bison as you possibly can within a short amount of time. The Arizona 300 Mag Tactical is the only semi-auto big game rifle we have. You have 5 rounds in the magazine, and it packs a mean punch. The recoil is pretty decent, so you can place quite a few follow-up shots as they run away. And especially if they're charging at you, this thing will deal with them perfectly. And you can find this in the high caliber weapon pack DLC. Moving on to our second rifle of the day, which is on the bottom of the list in terms of the 3 rifles we'll be covering here. It is the LRR-338. The recoil is pretty manageable. It's alright. It's got 5 rounds in there, but I do place it on the bottom of the list just mostly because the 300 has the semi-auto capability, so you'll be able to fire as many rounds as quickly as possible. And then the next rifle just overpens everything, so this thing's just kind of the runt of the group, but I do recommend it. It's very solid, it does the job, and you can find it in the Hunter Power Pack DLC. Alright, moving on to our final rifle of the day. The 375 is our big boy. If you want precision, overpen, this is the rifle for you. This is pretty much what I use in terms of yak hunting and stuff nowadays. I do like the 300, but this thing just drops them pretty quick in my opinion. I like it a lot, and you can find it in the Hunter's Choice Bolt Action Rifle Pack. Plus, you got 4 rounds in there, recoil ain't too bad. So I do recommend it. Moving on to handguns, I do want to give an honorable mention to the 454, mostly just because you have 5 rounds in there, and these plains bison sometimes do like to run at you, even though if they're not aggressive, they're kind of just a pain in the butt sometimes. So I do recommend bringing a sidearm or something to deal with them in case they charge you. But the Rhino, or the 454 Casull, just does the job really well. It's very solid. But that's not the handgun we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the 4570 Jernberg Spear, which is my favorite handgun in the game. Yes, it's a single shot. Yes, it's a downside. However, it covers classes 4 through 9, so it definitely kills these plains bison pretty well. But you can put a rifle scope on this thing, which makes it the best handgun in my opinion, just because you can get that zoom. And you can find this bad boy in the High Caliber Weapon Pack DLC. Moving on to shotguns. Now, this is something I recommend 100% to bring with you, no matter what, when you're hunting these animals. Where is it? Right here. The Strandberg 10 gauge. You have 4 rounds of the tube. You're carrying the highest caliber shotgun you can get in the game. This thing is a monster. I'm going to talk about a little bit of a darker side of Call of the Wild that I don't typically bring up, but back in the day on Silver Ridge Peaks, I would go plains bison hunting on an ATV. What I would do is I would load up with the Norden and the Miller model right here, and probably one other shotgun. I don't recall what it was, but I'd basically just corral the bison herds, hop off the ATV, and just unload with slugs and just reap the benefits. But just throwing that idea out there in case you guys want some high octane action hunting. Get on an ATV, slap on some shotguns like this bad boy right here, chase them down and blast them. But yeah, probably not in the Yukon, mostly just because there's a lot of trees and shrubs. But on Silver Ridge Peaks, definitely try that. But yeah, I highly recommend this thing. It packs a mean punch, and you can find it in the High Caliber Weapon Pack DLC. So that's pretty much it for the weapons. We're going to head over to the animal profile, so I will see you guys there in just a moment. And here we are, folks, at the end of today's video. Before I let you guys go, I'm going to do a quick animal profile breakdown. Starting on the left-hand side, we have all of our basic plains bison information. We have our class, difficulty, silver, gold, and diamond threshold. We have our weight from least to greatest in kilograms and in pounds. We have our fur types covering common and very rare. Moving on to center map, we pretty much covered all that information today at the start of today's video. Moving on, top right-hand corner, we have all of our time zones nice and organized for you. And then below that, we have the ammo chart for those full entirety kills. If this guide helps you guys, just please drop a like. It really helps out the channel. And with that all the way, I hope you guys have a very wonderful day. Happy hunting, good luck, and I will see you guys in the next one.